Okay, so what I did is I went to this website. It's uscode.house.gov. And you go to search and browse, and then in the search menu you put in insurrection. You'll come up with a whole list of titles, some laws, some not laws, that explain what insurrection is or has anything to do with insurrection. So Title 10 is the military. So we can read through here and we can see which parts of Title 10 contain the word insurrection. So we got Subtitle A, Subtitle A1, Front Matter, Chapter 13. So you can click on Chapter 13, and then up comes Insurrection. Chapter 13 of Title 10 is on insurrection. And you can read all about what insurrection is. If you go up here and you click the next button, it'll highlight the next word, insurrection. So this is the first word. The next word's here and there. And it'll tell you all about how insurrection is proclaimed, I guess, by the president. Federal aid for state governments. And it says use of militia or armed forces to enforce federal authority, interference with state and federal law, proclamation to disperse, Guam and Virgin Islands included as state. So what I want to show you here is these are all federal laws for the federal government to be used on federal lands. Okay, it's really important that you understand that the federal government makes federal laws for the federal people on the federal lands. So if you look through here, you'll see that it says on public lands. That's when the militia or the military is called in. They're called into the federal lands to protect the federal lands and the people on the federal lands. Okay, so that was Chapter 13. The next is federal aid for state governments, use of militia and armed forces to enforce federal authority. Okay, use of militia and armed forces to enforce federal authority. Whenever the president considers that unlawful obstructions, combinations, or assemblages, or rebellion against the authority of the United States, which includes the stuff that Congress has done or the various people have done, because just like the Patriots so-called stormed the Capitol, the people in the Capitol who are doing things outside of the Constitution are also in rebellion against the authority of the United States. Make it impracticable to enforce the laws of the United States because they've been enforcing non-laws in any state by the ordinary course of judicial proceedings. Yes, they've been obstructing justice because, as we know, the courts have not looked at Trump's evidence and in some cases just completely rejected it because they didn't want to hear it. So you can read that, and you can go down to use of militia and armed forces to enforce federal authority, and you can read through all these things. Now I'm going to show you a paper. This was published on a website called 1215.org. This says sui juris in association with Law Research Group. It's by Dr. Edward Rivera, He's an attorney and counselor at law. Here's his bar number, the date he was admitted, and website, email, and address. Now he's talking in here about the judicial system, okay? The judicial system and the way the courts are set up and how they're abusing the court system, and they've set up basically fake courts. So he says something in here that I've read in a lot of different other places, but he says it real nicely and easily here. There are few, if any, crimes that can be committed outside federal territory. Congressional insiders know Congress can punish few acts outside federal territory. So the federal territorial trial courts have been disguised as courts of justice for those who voluntarily submit themselves to federal prosecution. Among others, lawful users of medical marijuana and those who aid and assist them often find themselves federally charged with crimes that do not exist where they were alleged to have occurred. Outside of federal lands, the federal government does not make law. Okay? There's some books called Jurisdiction Over Federal Areas Within the States that also tell you this. There's also tons of case law that tell you that if you're not on government lands, the government laws don't apply to you. You're not a party to it. You're not a member of it. You're not under it. It does not apply to you. I know they force these things on us because we remain ignorant. Whenever we realize what's going on and we understand that their laws only apply on their lands, then we become like a waking giant. We become a knowledgeable giant, and knowledge is power. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much they want to force things on us. Knowledge is power. The more people that know and understand what's going on and why they can't do what they're doing, the more powerful we become. You can put other words in here on this site and just look up different things, and you can find out a lot of good information. There's one thing I really want to show you that's really important if you haven't seen any of my other videos, because I mention this on almost every single one of my videos. If you look here next to the titles, you'll see an asterisk. But this one doesn't have one, but this one does, this one does, this one does, this one doesn't. So you go down and it says this title has been enacted as positive law. However, any appendix to this title has been enacted, has not been enacted as part of the title. So it's telling you with an asterisk, it's been made positive. Without, it has not been made positive. Okay, so what is a positive law? Title 1, Chapter 3, Section 204. Now, in the paper I showed you by the Dr. Ed Rivera, he's explaining in this paper the judicial system, okay? And he explained, and this paper's at 1215.org, and I don't have the website for it, but I may have the website for it. But he tells you in here how they use the courts, the constitutional courts, and they created a fake court, also called a fake jurisdiction, inside those courts. And those are the courts that you go to, and then you're wondering why the judge does not follow the Constitution, and they tell you to get out because they don't want to hear anything about the Constitution, and the judges don't have oaths, and you're wondering why you can't win. And he explains that to you here because you're not in a constitutional court. You're in one of their fictions, one of their fictional courts called a fictitious jurisdiction or fictio juris. So that's why you can't win in court, because you're in a court where it's not actually hearing the law. It's not. Constitutional courts uphold the law and they hold court. So when laws are passed for the government to actually follow, it has an asterisk here next to the title, and you know because it has a positive law citation, and I'll show that to you in a minute. So chapter or title 1 USC chapter 3 section 204A, and it's like the last sentence in A. Okay, provided, however, that whenever titles of such code shall have been made or have been enacted, can't see my thing, have been enacted into positive law, the text thereof shall be legal evidence of the laws therein contained in all the courts of the United States, several states, the territories, etc., etc. So let me show you why Trump can't win in court. Because if you go down to voting and elections, guess what? It's not been made positive. It's not a law. And it can only, the issues for this can only be heard in a fake court, a court with fake jurisdiction. So they don't have to hear the Constitution in that court. Let me show you what a positive law looks like. Let's see. Okay, so this is Title 1, and Title 1 had an asterisk next to it. That means it's an actual capital L law. It's been made a capital L law, which that word, capital L law, is in the Constitution. And it has to say this title has been made positive law by Section 1, such and such and such. And you can click that. See, it's a link. You can click that and it'll open up the original paper. An act to codify and enact into positive law, Title 1 of United States Code, enacted general provisions, be it enacted by the Senate, and that's the enacting clause right here. This was codified in, I think, 1945, but you'll have to, okay, maybe 1947. Public law. Public law means it's for them. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled that Title I of the United States Code enacted general provisions is codified and enacted into positive law and may be cited as 1 USC such and such. And here's the law. Everything under it is the law. Now, if they don't have this here and you go 50 pages in and then they have it, then it's only after that's the law, and everything before is not a law, and the title, complete title, is not made positive law. The title is a compilation of a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of public laws. That's the code, the U.S. Code. I'll click on that again. Click on that. You'll see it's a code. Let's see. Oh, they took it down. They changed it. It's the black cat in the Matrix. They changed something. Yeah, they did change it. Okay, so here. It used to have a bunch of stuff up here in the corner, including a date saying